The 1980s saw the birth of the modern age of comic books, also referred to as the Dark Age. It marked a revitalization of sorts for DC Comics, who had been suffering from a slump in their sales since the late 1960s, when Marvel became a major competitor after it experienced a massive boom in creativity, dropping iconic character after iconic character after iconic character. Following their epic crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths, DC had become a strong contender yet again. It was during this time that countless iconic characters were being deconstructed and re-envisioned as well, like Batman and Superman among the pages of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. The superhero genre itself was also satirized in storylines like Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. All in all, comics were becoming darker and more serious than ever before. They weren't afraid of crossing lines. It was awesome. Join me as I count down my picks for the top 5 best comic characters to come out of the 1980s decade. Like always, this is my list, but if I missed any of your favorites or ones you feel should have been included, be sure to leave them in the comments section down below. At number 5, I'm choosing the Rocketeer, created by Dave Stevens. I think he's always been a very interesting and underrated character with a lot of potential. For those of you unfamiliar with him, the Rocketeer is a racing and stunt pilot by the name of Cliff Secord, who discovers a jetpack hidden by 2 gangsters fleeing police and becomes a hero of sorts. The Rocketeer is an homage to serial films of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and was even made into a live-action film in 1991, one of my personal favorites, might I add. It's a hidden gem. With number 4, I have to go with the Watchmen, all of them. Night Owl, Ozymandias, Silk Spectre, the Comedian, Dr. Manhattan, and Rorschach. They're all memorable characters in their own ways, and the Watchmen storyline itself is considered one of the greatest comics and graphic novels ever written. So, yeah. Next up at number 3 is En Sabah Apocalypse. Debuting in mid-1986, Apocalypse is one of my favorite villains in all of comics, and he's easily one of Marvel's most badass. I did a breakdown of him a while back if you want to check it out. There's a lot of great stuff to this character. Venom is number 2 here, and you knew he'd be on this list, you just knew it. Eddie Brock, Venom, is one of the most recognizable and popular characters in the entire comic book medium. He has this edge to him, this cool factor, that is hard to replicate. Brock's Venom is a massive, violent, testosterone-fueled beast, but he's also got some heroic qualities to him as well, which is why he's so interesting. Venom is the yin to Spider-Man's yang, and acts as one of the web-slinger's countless archenemies. It's time for some honorable mentions. We've got Deathstroke, She-Hulk, and Taskmaster that all debuted in 1980, Killer Croc, Lobo, and Hobgoblin emerging in 1983, Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing for the first time in 1984, Black Mask, John Constantine, and Mojo making their first appearances in 1985, The Ventriloquist and Scarface in 1988, and 2 personal favorites of mine, Crossbones and Anarchy, making their debuts in 1989. All these characters are great, but I feel the ones I've listed already are more noteworthy or made larger impacts in the grander scheme of things, at least to me. And at number 1, I'd have to go with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Originally intended to be a single-issue comic book released in 1983, parodying the likes of Marvel's Daredevil, The New Mutants, Frank Miller's Ronin, and Dave Sim's Cerebus, the series would quickly expand into other forms of media, having an animated cartoon start up in 1987 and an action figure line through Playmates Toys. The Turtles skyrocketed to mainstream success in the late 1980s and early 90s, and have since become some of the most recognizable and beloved characters of all time, with generation after generation being introduced to them in some new way. And let's not forget their iconic villains that debuted in the 1980s along with them. Shredder, Bebop, Rocksteady, and Krang all have a special place in our hearts. Alright guys, that does it for my list of the best comic characters created in the 1980s. Join me next time as I take on the 1990s. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and bell icon to be notified of all future content I release. Also, share it to anyone you know who loves this sort of stuff if you'd be so kind. I've got a Patreon page if you're interested in getting your name in the credits of my videos, or suggesting topics for some of my larger ones, like my comic or game reviews. Check out my bi-weekly podcast that I upload here on the channel as well if you like listening to those, and I will see all of you in the next one. Take care.